I want to say a massive thank you for our sponsor for the PACT Mantality podcast, Forever Fit. Forever Fit is a new online platform for women which provides us with our very own toolbox that is going to bring training programs, personal training regimes, diet plans, recipe books, yoga classes and meditation. There'll also be regular guest speakers bringing a lot of different expertise into the programme. So yeah, thank you so much, Forever Fit. You can find Forever Fit on Instagram and online, and all the details will be added onto a link. Thank you.
Welcome back to episode 11 of the PACT Mantality podcast with me, Paul Garrigan, and women's PACT Mantality, Carly Skelly. So today we have an incredible guest on. It's our second woman on the show. She has an autobiography out called Out of the Corner, and she's also part of many organisations locally, nationally, and even internationally, and has won many awards and accolades for the amazing work she is doing. It is Dr. Karen Johnson. Welcome.
Good morning. God, you sound really professional, doesn't it?
Is that a good intro?
Oh, that was a good intro.
Thank you so much for coming on, Karen.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's really a pleasure to meet you both. Heard so much incredible things about you two.
Oh, thank you. I'm really, really excited to get talking and to get really deep into your story, because it's an incredibly inspirational story. But usually at the start of the podcast, we start with a little bit of a check-in, just to see what's been happening for you lately, what's been alive for you, and what you've been up to, really.
Okay.
Before we dive deep into your life story.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, what's been happening, Karen? What's been alive for you recently?
Well, I've had a busy summer.
Okay.
Well, I'm talking busy
Yeah.
because when I go into more detail that I've got a hidden disability, bit later on, I can only do what I can do. But because it's been so hot, fabulously hot for me, it brings out the best in me because the heat heals me. Yeah?
Yeah.
So anyway, so with me being healed and being able to go out the door, I have been volunteering with volunteers with Alan Walsh in Anfield. The community centre there.
Yeah.
So they have volunteers looking after kids all over the summer, like, all little kids. Little kids. I don't know what the youngest is. I think the youngest is, I'm not even sure, to be honest. But they're growing up, to all ages. Yeah. And they have all activities on to mainly help the parents throughout the summer, because there's nothing to do. And there was no buses on. Remember the bus strike for 5 weeks? Yeah. These kids are just like stuck in the house. So it was great that they had these activities. So I was volunteering with the volunteers, the girls. So I had 9 girls, 9 teens. Raising awareness for domestic abuse, gang culture, especially the shootings that are going on. Me and Alan spoke about all related to gang crimes and their streets and their anxiety and the traumas they feel within this community of Anfield and surrounding areas. Yeah. And to hear these kids' stories was heartbreaking, really. Because they say a lot more than what I've seen, and they're living with it every day, especially the shooting of that poor young baby. Well, she was only a baby. Yeah. And I asked the kids, and with Alan as well, how do you feel to walk out of on your road? And they all said, I'm always looking over my shoulder. But they're all wise, like a lot wiser than me. Yeah. At such a young age, they've got to be streetwise. Yeah. But anyway, I didn't just do that. I went into confidence building, self-worth, self-love, self-respect, and mainly domestic abuse awareness, like a push and a shove on both parties, both boy and girl. It's not acceptable. Yeah. right? You don't accept a slap. You don't accept a spit in the face or a push and a shove or a kick. That's bullying.
Yeah.
And where is the respect today from boys and girls? Where's it gone?
Yeah.
As parents, from a young age, we should drum it into them from a young age that respect on boy and girl is paramount.
Yeah.
So I've been doing that. I've been doing one-to-ones.
Amazing. Yeah.
One-to-ones with domestic abuse, trauma-based, rebuilding their lives back, giving them a better outlook on life. A lot of trauma comes from after you've left an abusive relationship, you don't know what to do and where to go, or you get anxiety going out and stuff like that. So I rebuild their lives back in that respect, giving them their self-worth, motivation, a positive outlook. Like, just because we've been through that, we're no victims no more.
Yeah.
We're survivors.
Yeah, we're not
You've got to
defined
go
by
and
it.
live your life to the max. Don't let anyone make you stay in. Yeah, get your makeup on, girl, and get out. And the lads too. So do men too.
Yeah.
It's not just about women for me. Boys and girls, men go through it too.
Of course.
So my summer's been occupied doing
Busy.
that.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Some amazing work. And we obviously mentioned before the podcast that we both know Alan Walsh quite closely, don't we? Through the boxing.
Oh, he's great.
Obviously the boxing,
Amazing man, what he
he's
does.
Obviously a coach at Anfield, isn't he? But he does a lot of work with men, young men and women, involved with gang violence and culture and stuff like that, with weapons and knives and stuff, doesn't he?
Yeah, the work he does is really good. I worked at Alder Hay for a little while, and Alan was there in the A&E department. So when people were coming in with the knife crime, he was involved, and I think what he's doing now is just growing and getting bigger and bigger. And obviously, my thoughts are with the families over the past week or so, what's happened in Liverpool. It's absolutely heartbreaking. But the work that he's doing is incredible work. And, it's going to take some time to actually make this city how we'd like it to be. But, there's a lot of people doing incredible work to make change. You're obviously one of them, Karen, and Alan Walsh is another one who's doing incredible things.
Yeah, he's got a new building on Queen's Drive now.
Was he?
There's a new building.
Yeah.
I think that's just getting finished off. The boxing. But also there's going to be a lot of collaboration within that building. Like we can be referred to. I think housing and this and that and that. What everyone needs in one building. So it's easier to just refer to one room to the other. And I've been working voluntary with Alan, and hopefully we'll be going in there and collaborating with a lot more organisations for referrals.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you.
So Carly, let's have a check-in with you. What's been happening with you the past couple of weeks?
So I think we've been really busy, haven't we? We're trying to obviously build what we're doing with PACT, Men and Women's PACT, and trying to take the work that we do to all avenues of the city to help create that change. Because, like I've just said, we've seen like a lot of upsetting things happening quite recently, and just trying to bring that awareness is that there are people there, there are organisations there to help. And something I want to touch upon actually is that like comments get made is like people talk, and I get that we want to encourage people to talk, but I've been in a place myself in the past where I felt like there was no one to talk to. So not only when we're telling people to talk, it's really important to talk, but it's having a safe space to be able to talk. And sometimes people don't feel like they've got that. And in the past, when I've maybe had to talk about stuff, it wasn't received. So then I really went within and kept everything in so tight because it weren't received. So a message to talk, 100%. But another message I'd like to say to people is provide a safe space for people to talk. Be all accepting and non-judgmental to people so that people feel safe, that they can talk to anybody about anything without a judgment, without that, well, I can't really say that because it's not going to be received. So,
a lot of people feel judged, don't they?
Yeah, definitely.
So much so that they keep silent.
Yeah.
And it takes one person to speak for another one to speak. And that's what I noticed in the group, the girls' group. The first week, no one spoke at all. And the second week, I never shut them all up. That's what I mean.
It has that ripple effect, doesn't it? Of one person dropping the guard and a relatability.
Well, like you said, by having space or having somewhere for anyone or everyone to go to that needs help and support, because there's so much going on today that there's not enough support mentally. Is that?
No, it's creating the conditions within society, because this is a societal problem that we're looking at it, that it's an individual problem, that men only have got domestic violence issues, or women only have got domestic violence, or mental health. But how are we as a society responding to the fact that what is actually going on? That we're seeing a lot of, there's rises in violence, there's rises in crime, there's rises in domestic violence, there's rises in suicide.
Especially now with the financial.
Especially not, and there's financial crisis, living crisis, the cost of living crisis. It's like, how are we providing support for the wider community?
But it's people like us.
Yeah.
It's only us.
Yeah.
And all everyone in the community are offering our services to help people in this crisis, because it's going to get worse, and winter's going to be even more horrendous than last winter, with all the sky-high bills, and that causes arguments, that causes fights, that causes problems within the family, and the kids suffer. Not just the kids, that's the ripple effect. The shouting and then the violence starts. It's a horrible, horrible way for a child to be in that environment.
And I think that's a lot of the time is why we're seeing things happening, is that sometimes the children might be escaping that, and then it's what defines, and then isn't it? So they're maybe being initiated in other ways of gang culture, and people are just wanting to be seen and heard, and if they're not seen and heard in the family home because there's so much going on, it's where the fines in it. So being able to provide, like the community thing that you've had through the summer is absolutely amazing. Creating these things for people who have got things going on, giving them an outlet, giving them that safe space, and providing that safe space for people.
Yeah, giving them connection to people like you.
I don't know if you've seen on the news this morning, they were saying they're opening up spaces down in London for people to go and keep warm and just to talk. They're having open spaces. Where is Liverpool? What are we doing in this city?
Yeah.
Where's the people going to go who can't keep warm with the kids and can't cook because of the gas and electricity and the violence at home, or the mental health? As a community, this is where we've got to pull together and help these people. So we've got to do our best. I mean, we're all suffering our own selves with the financial crisis. I'm a single mum. I'm on, I've got a disability. We're all suffering. So this is where we've all got to pull together and help each other.
Yeah. And it's about, for me, it's really about empowering people to not lose themselves to what's actually going on, but actually working to their strengths and where they actually sit in the crisis of what's happening. Instead of we can lose ourselves quite easily mentally and to old traumas and to stress and stuff like that. But where do we stand in an area that we can actually empower ourselves to take advantage of what's going on?
Exactly.
Instead of losing ourselves to what's going on. I think that's where it's really important that we reach people, to empower people individually. And when we do that, and we can create a sense of community.
Yeah. That's exactly.
Of empowered individuals, all with the same intention, or with similar intentions to be the best version of themselves.
Yeah, when you get empowerment, when I do deliver my courses that I wrote myself 9 years ago, and I still haven't changed it. It's like a script, I know it off by heart now. Yeah. But every group is different, because everyone's needs are different, but the same needs. Yeah. If you get what I mean? Yeah. But the interaction's different on every group. And empowering these women and men and watching the change over the weeks, yourselves, what you see is what you do as well, is worth any lottery win.
Of course.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
see them change before your eyes, becoming stronger, getting the light back in their eyes. On the 6th week, a lot of women changed the colour of their hair, got the lippy on, and they're like walking in like that. But not even if they don't have to wear makeup, they're looking after their skin, they're looking after their own well-being, and they've just got a change in the colour of the skin. They're not grey no more. When you're a victim of domestic abuse, you have this cast on your eyes of being dead, and your skin's very dull. Because you're drained of every emotion. Yeah. You're drained of every part of your body disappears. And you've got to fight for all that back. Yeah. So when you rebuild that up in somebody, my God, it's the best feeling ever. As you know, you've done it yourself.
Yeah.
Haven't you? Both of you.
Yeah.
The reward we get.
Yeah.
Thank you, Carly, anyway, for checking in with that. So for me, I think I've tried the past couple of weeks, to really try and slow down. And spend a lot of time with the kids over the 6 weeks. Because, as you know yourself, when you're doing something you love, sometimes you can get lost in actually working. And we've got two young lads who are really active in what they do with football and boxing and non-stop. And even when I'm trying to get work done in the house, my lad who's 10 will not leave me to do some work. So,
what a fabulous age, though.
Yeah,
I'm better all grown up now. I want that noise again. Trust me, you miss it.
So I've really been trying to slow down, but I've actually found that through slowing down, I feel like I've been getting more done, and I'm a lot more present with my kids, but I'm actually a lot more present and got a better perspective and perception of where everything's going, rather than being so tunnel vision and work. Yeah. Actually just taking that step back. I've had a couple of lie-ins. I usually get up at like 5 a.m. me. I've been getting up at like 7, half 7, and it's been great just to get up. And like for me, what most people get up to, that most people get up at them times, don't they?
I don't.
No.
I've got chronic fatigue.
Have you?
With this fibromyalgia, so I don't sleep. I'm lucky if I get 3 hours a day,
really?
A night, or 4 hours, which is pretty horrendous, really.
Yeah.
But I'm fighting that as well. But I just put my energy, which I shouldn't, because I should be sleeping and doing global awareness then. I just go from country to country. Yeah. I thought, well, I'm awake, I might as well do something good. But that's where I don't switch off ever.
Yeah.
And I get where you're saying.
Yeah. You can, and that, essentially that leads sometimes to burnout. When we're doing that all the time, you can end up burning out. Certainly I do, where I just end up hitting a bit of a brick wall now and again. But it's learning to know yourself, learning to know my own work habits, my own behaviours and stuff like that. So the 6 weeks has actually been quite testing, but at the same time, it's allowed me to settle down a little bit and work, and I'm ready for September to absolutely smash it and attack it till Christmas and get after it. Yeah,
it's great, isn't it? It's a great feeling to get out there and do things for the community, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think when you're doing what you love, for me personally, like I do hop out of bed sometimes at like 5 a.m. I'm up. And I get told off sometimes to slow down, but when you're actually doing what you love, you've got a passion for it. It doesn't feel like work sometimes, and you can't take enough of it in. You're trying to, but then at the same time, you've got to fill your own cup up. Otherwise, you can't help anyone else. If you're burnt out, can you?
I think I'm very guilty for that.
Yeah.
Because I'm absorbing so many people's emotions and feelings, especially over the one-to-ones. I give them all my strength.
Yeah.
In fact, maybe I give too much of me. But in the past, I forgot about me and give everything. Yeah. But I've learned that I've got to keep some for me, especially having this condition, because I'm literally wiped out afterwards, mentally and physically. But then I know what I've got to do. I've got to just rest and get my energy back. It's like plugging myself in. Duracell batteries, replug, charge.
And that's it.
Full again. Let's get on with it.
We are human, and sometimes we fall into things, so we do get a little bit like we just keep going and going and going, and then we're like, oh my God, I've got nothing left, I'm burnt out here, why has this happened again? But it does happen, but it's being aware, isn't it, of if we are given so much, it's just keep pouring a little bit into your own cup, just slowing down sometimes.
You've got so much empathy, you see.
Well, that's it, I was going to say, because we're so passionate about what we do, we sometimes forget about us because we're passionate about what we're doing, and we want to make a difference, and we want to help, and then we think, oh my God, I've run out of petrol here.
Yeah, but saving the world starts with yourself.
Yeah, I know.
It always come back to the self, doesn't it? That's something I always think about. You know, well, you can't do anything if you're not looking after yourself.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I think also having a positive outlook on life. You've always got to keep that up. So even when I have really, 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 really bad days, I've got to keep positive at all times, because I will never, ever let the past ruin my future.
yeah.
And my bad days, my mum says to me, God, I hate him for what he's done to you and give you this, disability. And I keep saying, Mum, it's done. I've just got to live with it. There's no point in me living in the past in my head, because if I relive that all the time, I'll be constantly down there.
Yeah.
There's no point. What's done's done. I feel I've had to go through all of them 7 years to be sitting here today in front of you guys and doing what I do.
Yeah.
that's amazing the way you've just put it, because that's something like I always say, isn't it? The pain that I've gone through, not that it was ever right, but I believe I was maybe chosen, I was strong enough to go through what I went through to be able to bring the work that I'm doing now to make a difference, or to help, or to break that generational cycle that's maybe gone through my ancestors and things with the same kinds of traumas. So it's turning our pain into purpose. So rather than looking at it as, why me, and
Can't
why,
dwell on
it's
it,
like,
can
no,
you?
it's
There's no
my
point in dwelling.
No, it's my power now, it's my purpose, and I'm going to do something with it rather than wallow in it. I'm going to rise.
That's what we're giving out as well. We have to give people who've gone through the same traumas or all different traumas a positive outlook on life instead of dwelling on things of the past. The past is in the past, let it stay there. Let's look at the future and let's look at now. That's where we need to be to make our future brighter and happier and healthier with whatever trauma's going on. All different traumas. We've got to look ahead. We've got to fight it. We've got to fight the demons that's in our head. Fully believe that.
Thank you. So let's get into your life story then, yeah?
Go on then.
Let's get into your life story. So starting back at your sort of earliest memories in life.
Earliest.
Yeah, to sort of like take us through your childhood, where you're from. Your family life
Liverpool,
as a child,
yeah.
Like where about in Liverpool, if you like, and how old you are and what your family was like. Did you have any brothers and sisters?
Yeah.
And then we can then go into like school times and stuff like that,
Okay.
okay?
Well, I was born in Liverpool,
Yeah.
in Mill Road Hospital. I think that's right. My mum would kill me. I can't remember it. Many, many years ago. God, I feel old. But anyway, age is just a number.
But I think that's where I was born, Mill Road. I think it's knocked down the year after me. I was born in Mill Road, and but I think it was knocked down just after I was born.
Do you know what? I used to go past the hospital and go, I was born there.
I never got to
My mum
see
kept
it.
on reminding me that was right, it was Mill Road.
Yeah.
I was born there. I was brought up in Anfield
Right.
by the Liverpool football grounds. I was in a terraced house I'd come home to in my dad's arms and my mum's arms in Vienna Street. And not that I remember that. And then my mum and dad moved from there to, do you know Broadway?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lived in Broadway for a while. And then we moved to West Derby. So my dad with his jobs, he worked his way up, and my mum, and gave me the most incredible childhood. My mum and dad met when they were 8 years of age or 7 years of age. My dad come back because he's Italian. Well, he's half Italian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My dad come over from Italy, and my mum was 8 or something like that, playing out dolls or whatever she was doing. It's a fantastic love story. And she went, "Oh my God, who's that on the bike?" Because my dad was like tanned with the little tan shorts on and the little socks, all Italian. And they all said, that's Frankie Jono. And she went, I'm going to marry him. And she did at 17.
Amazing.
And then had me.
Yeah.
At 19, I think it was. I was in a loving, don't get me wrong, they fought like cat and dog, but in a nice way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Every couple goes through problems, but they stuck together. 50 years, well, it would have been 58 years now when my dad passed away. I had a fantastic childhood. I was brought up with fight. My dad was always pushed. I'm very strong anyway. So when I was 13, I was more like 16. I knew what I wanted in life. I was always driven. I'd always watch my mum and dad work hard. My dad was a really good salesman. He had his own companies, sales. And I went on a few pitches with him. And then I went into sales myself. And I always had that. I always admired him for this. So he gave me that go-getting sort of life, to say, go for everything that you want.
Yeah.
Till I told him I wanted to be a model.
Yeah.
And he went, you're too ugly. But he said that for a reason. Because he know I'm proven wrong. I went, what? I'm too ugly. That's disgusting. How would you tell a child that? Because he thought, she's going to prove me wrong. No, in a joke way. This is what we had the banter going on, so I did. And I did very well at 13. Only, like magazines, like, girly little girls, you know what I mean, don't you? Teenagers.
So was that the age 13 that you started the modelling?
Started 13, yeah. My mum used to come with me as my chaperone, obviously, because anybody out there who's going into modelling, at 13, you take a chaperone and you make sure that you look and look at this company or the photographer. You do all your research.
Yeah.
Do never go on your own, because I went through some terrible experiences.
Right.
It's like do your due diligence on who you're working with, isn't it?
What?
Do your due diligence on who you're working with.
Yeah. So when I was 16, my mum entered me a competition in the Liverpool Echo for Miss 156 Regiment and the TA, right? And I won it.
Amazing.
Oh, I had 2,000 men all saluting me. I was 16 in a combat uniform, right? But I went to Grantham. The best time of my life. I had a bodyguard. But that experience, I've never forgotten it. I've never forgotten it. I was petrified. I was 16, but I was still very confident. Never a diva. No, overly confident. I can't stand people like that where they think they're too good for everyone else. Very grounded. But having that experience of representing 2,000 men and they're all saluting you, Miss 156. And when I did I had to go in the dormitories and inspect the dormitories with the big corporals or sergeants and all of this. And my picture was on all the lockers. I was going, oh my God, this is embarrassing. Completely red constantly. And then I had to go to do the assault course. Well, I didn't. I'm supposed to watch at the side. Yeah. The corporal, whatever his name was, turned his back, said he had to meet. I was over on a raft. Or even on a pole. Oh, he said, you're not supposed to have done that. I said, these men, I'm representing them. I want to join in. I don't just get standing all pretty. Yeah. But just because I'm a pin-up, I want to be in with the muck.
Yeah.
And I did.
Brilliant.
The best time ever. I did that for a year.
Yeah. So how was your dad then with that? Like, was he really supportive? Because obviously you're then, like you said, you walked into the dormitory and all the men have got your picture up.
Oh, it was made up.
Was he
That's my daughter.
Yeah.
That's my daughter.
Yeah.
He was chuffed with that.
Yeah.
My mum and dad both were.
Yeah.
And then after that, you grow up a lot. Obviously, you grow up a lot with all experiences in life, don't you? So I did grow up pretty quickly. And the more I was going into modelling, the more jealousy and not very nice girls. Because I did beauty competitions as well. And I was around then, you know, a long time ago in the 80s with like Linda Losardi, all of them, Samantha Fox, all of them, Tracy Chapman. Oh, there's all these beauty queens, Jane Kennedy, and I was competing against them. I thought, I've got no chance against them. Because it was all, I know, who knows, she knows. Didn't stand a chance, you know what I mean? It was all one of them.
Yeah.
But, you know, I did it for the experience, but it was the bitchiness. I mean, cat fights in that back and people ripping dresses just to get their own, to be seen more. Oh, it was horrendous.
So how old are you at this point then? When all this was going on?
I think that was 16, 17.
Still 16, 17 and you're seeing all this type of, all the jealousy started.
How did that affect you? Because obviously you said like when you started doing that, you're this confident, not overly, but really confident and believed in yourself. So when the jealousy like was around you, how did you cope with that? Did that ever affect your confidence?
It really hurt.
Yeah.
Well, I had a bigger nose then. My dad was Italian, so I had a big Italian nose then. And I always wanted to have it done from an early age. My dad goes, no, suit your face. My mum goes, no chance. And I thought, one day I'm going to get it done, pay for it myself. Kept on asking him, please, Dad, get me a nose job, get me a nose job. Because I had a big bump when it come to there. But it didn't, when I got photographed, he never did a side on. He always did a frontal.
Yeah.
But going into model agents, you see you've got a big nose, you're not going to get anywhere. Or the girls used to call me Concord, or there she comes, you see her nose first before you see Karen Johnson.
And it's a hard profession, isn't it? Because when you think...
I had that in school a lot as well, Concord.
Yeah.
Here she is, Concord. You know, see her, the nose comes round the corner before you see her. Really affected me here.
And you're putting yourself in front of people to be judged as well, aren't you? So
like,
it
was
if you're not
even
like
more
if you're not
so.
winning things, or you know, you're coming second, third, maybe then not feeling quite enough, not good enough because you're never making the mark. Like, how does that all affect you? Like, and then obviously all the cattiness going on around it. Like, did you start to lose confidence, or did you manage to keep
I did get
yourself?
an eating disorder.
Right, okay.
Because in the 80s, you had to be stick thin.
Yeah.
Not like it is now, curvy
Yeah,
models.
it's very different, isn't it?
Very different. It was then size 8 or whatever. And I mean, I was only slim anyway, but keeping to this size 8 to walk, you know, to do these beauty competitions, I used to just drink black coffee and not eat. I make myself sick when I did eat. And take a lot of laxatives. So I've really done damage to my body and when I was younger. Well, that's another mentality of modelling as well. The competitive or keeping up with other people. Now's different. If you've got curves, flaunt them, girl.
Yeah.
Curves are beautiful. Like stick thin models are not too thin now.
Yeah.
They're not healthy looking. And we've got to, you know, the kids of today looking in magazines and all of that. Enjoy your curves. If you've got curves, love yourself for who you are.
Yeah.
Back then, it wasn't anything like that. It was very strict.
And that's the hard thing for women, isn't it? Is they do look at the magazines or they look at these shows on the telly and everything's a trend. So what's going now is what they try and be. And then when that changes, it's then, well, they've got to change it now. And it's
That's
difficult,
only,
isn't it?
but starting the mental health starts and then doubting yourself.
It's
and
become the norm now because of social media and the platforms that are out there, the pressures that are not only
Especially now.
used to be on women a lot, are also on men.
Oh, I
to
know,
look
men have
and
lost.
act and be a certain way, to have this physique, you know, to grooming yourself, looking after your body, waxing your body, you know, what in whatever way. Botox, yeah. A lot of men are getting Botox.
Yeah.
And their eyebrows, wherever, waxed or wherever they're tinted or...
Anabolic steroids in men
steroids,
is like huge. Something that I fell into myself when I was younger, you know, taking anabolic steroids, trying to look a certain way, you know, being on the sunbeds, always being tanned, always needing to look and be a certain way, big white teeth.
Very much like women are the same.
Yeah.
You've got this, you know, men have the same insecurities of women do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no difference in gender. There's no difference.
Yeah.
We've all got the same, you know, we have all the same feelings and emotions of what we feel inside, how we look and perceive to people.
Yeah, I think some of them pressures maybe, years ago weren't on men. Like to maybe look as much. They used to like groom up maybe smart, didn't they? But it was never like what it is now in terms of like the pressures on men to be a certain way. I don't feel like it maybe even looking back at my dad, if you like, I don't feel like they had the same sort of pressures on them. There might have been other pressures, but not the same pressures in how you're actually looking every single day and how you're showing up to the world. And then you've got the social media pressures.
And the clothes.
So
expensive.
Yeah.
The designer this, designer that. I mean, you only have to look at magazines now. How can a normal family, this day and age, right, afford? When I moved to Spain for 9 years, I didn't have to have that. He has to wear these Nike trainers of 100 quid, or my sons have to wear Nike tracker, or whatever it was in the, whatever fashion. The pressure was off me there, because in Spain they didn't care.
Yeah.
And there was no school uniforms. I actually got clothes from markets and shorts and t-shirts and trainers. No one noticed there as it is here.
Yeah.
Until we come back.
Liverpool in particular, it's a very competitive city, isn't it? Everybody is competing. We actually said something before the podcast, didn't we, like about collaboration over competition. This city is, the majority of it's in competition with each other. Who's got the best clothes, who's got the best house, who's got the best car,
who's got the best teeth,
job,
who's got the best eyes, who's got the best nose, who's got the best hairstyle, who's got the best bag.
Yeah, rather than like, they've got everything amazing there, like, well done you, and then hopefully like I'll be able to get that one day, but why have they got that and I haven't? Like I do this more, and it's.
I think that comes in line with obviously competitiveness, and that ties in then with consumerism, and for me that always comes back to like society and values, and how, for me, society is set up in a way that is traumatised.
Yeah.
That we're trying to be something other than we are.
Exactly.
All the time we're trying to escape being who we are.
And people go into debt for it.
Yeah, and we're losing ourselves to it.
Yeah, because the mums, single mums, or low parent family, low income families get catalogues. Now they're paying all year round for double that price for the kids to have a brand name. It's awful. Why should the kids be in brands?
Yeah.
But there again, everyone judges everybody.
Yeah.
And they get bullied if they're not in the same gear.
Yeah.
And that's why people probably do it, is because they worry what will happen if we're not keeping up with the Joneses, what will happen.
Yeah, and I think...
Especially school.
I feel as well, though, at the same time while I was saying this, I do feel like it comes down to where it's actually driven from.
Yeah.
Is it driven from a place of not being good enough, or are you doing something because you actually want to do it? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, you're doing it because you don't feel good enough, so you have to change something about yourself so you're more accepted by the outside world, or are you just doing it because you're actually... I want better teeth.
Yeah.
Or I've got the money to invest in nice clothes, so I want to wear nice clothes. Like there's also not judging people who do that.
Yeah.
There's a massive thing of how we look at judging, because we say we shouldn't judge, but then are we judging other people who do actually spend that money and who do actually want to look nice? There's nothing wrong with wanting to look nice, is there, at the same time?
When I was doing, the group of the summer, we asked a question to the girls. If you met a man, or a boy, or a man, say, who was buying you like Louboutins and handbags, and then you found out he was a drug dealer, would you still be with him? Because by that time they're so used to their gifts and their way of life and the money, especially when the parents can't afford it. It was so interesting to see if they would have stayed with him or not.
Yeah.
And majority of these girls said, well, if I found out he was a drug dealer, I'd leave him. But I'd make sure to keep all my gifts.
I like what you said there, though. It's why they're doing it. So maybe they're just so they're not getting that love, or, you know, they want that connection and that love. They don't value themselves enough, and there's no self-worth, so they feel like that might make them feel more pleasable to
Other
men
people,
and to other people.
And they give themselves too freely. Self-respect goes.
Yeah.
A lot of girls, I'm not saying, you know, there's so many girls out there who've given too much of their body too quickly.
Yeah.
To feel wanted, loved because of their insecurities. But they don't realise that these lads don't want them as a person. They just want the bodies. They don't want the minds or, the couple thing. They just want their bodies to be used.
Where do you think that comes from then? Like that need to be, obviously we all want to be loved and stuff like that, but where's that driven from then? Like that need to maybe, like you're saying, give something too early in a relationship or with men, that they're actually carrying out that behaviour. Where's that driven from, do you think?
Just low self-esteem.
Yeah.
They've got no self-worth, or they haven't got any self-love about them. They've got no self-respect. They just want to, or they've never had it. They've never felt it from maybe their childhood, their upbringing, past experiences, the knockdowns, even through such a young age. There's so many traumatised kids out there from all different ages and all different lifestyles. Like, you know, death of a parent, insecurities, wanting to feel that closeness, and the first boy that comes along, they fall madly in love with them at such a young age. But that's when some work, obviously some can work. I'm not saying that all goes in disaster. I'm not saying that whatsoever. But these young girls, especially if they're in gangs, or she could be passed around one to the other.
Yeah.
That goes on.
Yeah.
It's like also about, if you don't do this, or my mate, well, I won't love you no more, or I won't like you, or see what I mean?
Yeah.
She's so vulnerable. She'll do anything just to feel this love and attention from this person. So cruel. And that goes on a lot too.
Yeah. It's
You've got to learn. I feel like what we have to do from a very young age going into schools, we've got to give them this self-respect and self-worth and everything. Positive mindset to love yourself more. That you are your own individual and you have your own morals and standards and confidence to say, hang on a minute, I'm worth more than that, and keep away from it all. Yeah, don't. It's so easy to be roped in, but keep saying, I'm not going to be involved with all of that. Thanks very much. I value myself a lot.
Yeah,
too much for that. This is where we've got to give them from a young age.
Yeah, and it's hard, isn't it? Because we've got the younger generations maybe that are susceptible to a lot of things that are happening right now, and it's understanding what it is they're desiring. So if there's a lack of understanding as to why they're behaving in the way that they behave, like that's the good thing right now, is that I've been able to work on myself and understand my past behaviours of why I've got myself into trouble. It
is, it's just understanding, why am I so insecure? But giving them the tools, to open up, like you said, and talk freely. To support groups, to people like us in our community. We're giving them a push start to have a new life.
Yeah, and sorry,
don't make me start
emotional then, because things that like I have gone through myself, I still see happening now. So it's hard sometimes because it hits wounds within me when I'm working with people and things happening the same. Like I'm working with young girls in school and you're seeing the same things happening. And I think because you're so passionate about it, sometimes you just think, how can we stop it? But we can't save the world, can we? Like you said before, you've got to...
No.
This is why we're so passionate.
Yeah.
But we can make a difference and we can give people the tools that we weren't given. They get the beauty of that, and they get the beauty of being in touch with two women like yourselves. You know, women have got the beauty of that we never had. We never had that, and you never had that women around you to give you that life experience and to give you the choice.
Yeah.
We weren't at times given the choice. You weren't given the option. You were sort of like, you just went down that path.
I wish I had us when I was younger. I wish I had people like us to go to.
Yeah.
And especially going into a domestic abuse relationship. Because I would have seen the signs. I would have had this gut feeling, know what a gut feeling is. That gut feeling is saying, don't go there. But majority of people don't know what a gut feeling is. You know what I mean?
Definitely, because as a woman, we're very intuitive. Yeah. But because we've become so disconnected with our authenticity as a woman, and we're not allowed to be this embodied and expressive woman or being, because if we're too like in flow and, you know, flirtatious or too sexualized, we then become the slut. Yeah. And you become, you know, all these other things. But we try and then fit into, the condition of like, women should behave this, girls should behave like this, that we start to lose that gut feeling because we don't know whether we're intuitively feeling or we're fearful through our past experiences. Sometimes for me, I think I'm very intuitive, but then I think, am I more in fear because of what's happened to me in the past? And is it more me just putting a wall up and pushing away? Or is it my gut feeling? So when we can really connect to ourselves and really listen to our gut feeling,
that tells you, doesn't it?
It's a sign, it's a message from us. Our body speaks to us. So it's learning to connect to our bodies again, to actually know what it's telling us.
When I had my gut feeling when I met him, I thought it was love. Butterflies.
I'm getting butterflies.
I thought, what are these lovely feelings in my stomach? Little did I know it was the biggest warning sign ever that I never took notice of.
Okay, so it's been 16, 17, 18, you've gone through your modelling. Yeah, and then your modelling career's carried on from that point. So lead us then from that point to then getting to 27, that led to then your relationship.
I joined the airlines. I went to live in Bahrain.
Yeah.
I worked for Quickfire.
Yeah.
So I was based in Bahrain.
Yeah.
Oh, what a life I had there. Yeah. But I'm a study. I've got to study. I'm not one of these girls that absorb information in the brain. I've got to study highlights. So when I was in Bahrain, everyone was out partying but me, because I'm in room going, because I tell you what, when you're out in Bahrain, you've got so much to learn, because if you didn't get 100% of multiple choice, you're home.
Yeah.
You had one chance. So I wanted to prove to myself, I wanted this job. I wanted those gold wings and that uniform, and I wanted this so much. It was one of my goals.
Yeah.
So I studied hard. Thank God I did pass. With a lot of hard work. And that was an experience and a half. And then anyway, I left Quickfire and I worked for Air 2000. We're going way back then. That was another really lovely airlines. I did long haul, I didn't do any short haul. And that was the trips to Africa and Mombasa. Because I used to stay there for a week with the crew. Oh, it was a fabulous life. It was, I loved it so much. And that's where I met the perpetrator.
Nice.
That's all I can call him.
Yeah.
Because he was.
Yeah, so how did that meeting take place then? Because we had a little talk, didn't we, having a coffee about it before, so it was interesting, wasn't it?
I was in the, I was in the Bora Bora in Mombasa. Nightclub.
Yeah.
With the crew and the captain. And anyway, after a couple of hours, there was a power cut. So we all got issued. candle. But I was desperate for the loo. So I went to the first officer, but, the supervisor of the crew. She says, come to the toilet with me because I'm desperate. So I'm walking through with candles to the toilet, and this arm pulls me through, like the crowd. I thought, oh my God, what's happening? And then this tall, dark, was handsome, could say then. Well, he was then. Scottish guy said, I'll escort you hen, because he had this broad Scottish accent. I went, where did he come from? Anyway, he did, and waited me outside, took me back to the crew and handed me to the captain, all safe and sound. That was it then. He stayed all night. No, but I mean, not all night, but he stayed with us. And so, we got talking, and he asked permission if he could take me to see the proper Mombasa. Because when you're crew, you don't stay outside of the hotel. Whereas he was on a safari holiday, and he asked the captain for permission to take me into the towns of Mombasa. I mean, back then, you could do these things. Now they wouldn't allow you.
Yeah.
Because it just wouldn't be allowed. So he asked permission, and I went, and I seen the mud huts and broke my heart seeing that side of things. Anyway, that was the start of the romance.
Okay, so from the start of your romance, or what was your thought would be your romance, what is the story from that point? So after you've met and he's took you to Mombasa, tell us about the journey.
Okay.
The 7-year journey that you've been on.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, sorry. How long was you in that romance for? Like, how long did
the
that
beginning
part of it last?
Yeah.
Well, it was very quick actually, because when you think you fall in love with someone, it's like goes fast, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So he was on my flight coming back, and I was doing this is stewardess, and he says exactly where he changed seats so he could see me do my thing, this and all of that, which was very embarrassing.
Yeah.
He got off at Manchester, and then he went back to Scotland, and within the weekend he was back in Liverpool to see me. So I told my dad about him, told my mum about him, and then he stayed for the weekend in Liverpool. He slept in the back room. Oh, God, my dad thought I was a child even at 21. With nothing like that. Separate rooms, all of that, very respectful, which I was. And it went from there. And then he was very charming, very... great personality. Everyone liked to be around him. Couldn't hardly understand him in the beginning with his broad accent, but I got used to that. Because he was big and broad, I felt protected. You know what I mean? Like, he's big and broad and had this fabulous personality until I got to know him. And from this very bubbly, confident, outgoing woman, after 7 years of being with him, I became a shell. I lost everything about me because he did it over time, because that's what they do. Gradually picking, pulling you down. But what it was, I eventually moved to Scotland, you see. Oh, let me tell you the fact when you met my dad first. For the first time you met my dad took him into the conservatory, like put him under the lights like this, under investigation. And he went to put his hand out. My dad took his hand out away. He never shook his hand. Because he felt something.
Your dad?
He said, sit down, tell me about yourself. And because he never shook his hand, he hated him. No. The ex-husband hated my dad from day one. And he made my life hell for that. Not straight away, in time. Oh, I paid the price for that. he convinced my dad eventually that I was the perpetrator. I was losing my mind. I had Andrew, my eldest boy. He made out I had postnatal depression, but the violence started way before that.
When was the first time? Like, how long had you been together? And it was nice. You were in this new relationship. How long or
A year.
A year.
The argument started a bit. I moved to Scotland then.
Yeah.
To be with him. So I transferred from Manchester to Scotland.
Yeah.
Still being cabin crew. Flying out to Glasgow. And I moved in with his mum. Same separate rooms and all that, very Catholic family. Coming away from my family was heartbreaking. But I knew I had to do it. I had to leave one day.
Yeah.
Go on to this big wide world. So I did. That was when it really started, when I was broke away from the family. It was the mental abuse first. Saying I was dragged up and I'm worthless, I'm ugly, fat. Especially when I left the airlines and then we had an argument one night. He used to goad me so much, talking about my dad, pulling my dad down, that I wanted to run at him. I was only frail, little, a lot thinner than what I am now. And he used to, when you're goading you and you want to run at them, that's why I always thought I was the perpetrator, because I'd run. I was going to run at him, not to hit him, but to run at him, to make him shut up. And he booted me in my stomach. Boot. Little did I know I was pregnant. And I lost the baby. I had a miscarriage. And then he took me away. After that, I was all sorries and sorries and sorries and flowers and sorries and crying. He's a big lad. You know what I mean? All these tears. Forgive me, forgive me, forgive me. Which you do. And went to holiday. I still feel pregnancy, it's your hormones. So I just went and had a test and I was pregnant. Positive. I was like, can't be positive. So I went to the doctors. I was pregnant still. I'd like twins. One had come away and one was stuck in my tube. So I was an ectopic pregnancy. So I had to go in and have an operation. But I was very lucky because I was on the verge of bursting.
Yeah.
So I could have lost my life. So he never just kicked one out of me. I lost two.
Yeah.
Which was harsh. I had no family there. I had no friends. And none of his family liked me.
Did you have a connection with your family being back at Liverpool? Was you able to reach out, or did you not really want to let them know any of this? Was this
They
all...
knew nothing.
Yeah.
They knew nothing. I couldn't. I couldn't tell them that, could I?
Yeah.
I wanted them to be proud of me. I come from a really lovely, caring home. I wanted everyone, oh, she's fine down there. She's happy. I didn't want them to know anything. I was protecting them from everything. It got really worse, though. Really worse. After that, I thought, am I going to get over this? But I thought, okay, carry on. Deep breath, let's try again. And then I fell pregnant with Andrew. And this time, the violence stopped, as in hitting, but the mental got worse. Because he's drinking. So, if you drank whiskey, watch out. Because he got verbally violent in my face. He used to spit at me. I was pregnant at the time. He used to throw glasses behind my head and used to have glass everywhere and all over me, putting cupboard doors and just stopping near my head, laughing. he thought it was all a joke. He did everything in joke form. He meant every word of it. He meant not every word. He meant every bit of that joke. Intimidation, which affected me here. Then when he gave birth, which had a long birth, and he come in a month early. It was his birthday yesterday. Actually, he was 29. New baby, everything's wonderful. No. Then he blamed me for having postnatal depression and tried to get Andrew off me. Sending the doctors with the white coats, coming to see me. I used to walk the streets just with him. I had nowhere to go. And when I went to his family's, covering bruises up, and they think, what are you covering up for? What are you hiding? A bit of a black eye and stuff. What are you wearing makeup for? No, but in a horrible way. Not in a nice way. And if I told them, they go, it's your fault though, isn't it? You're the crank. He told us you're the crank. You just got postnatal depression, you need help. I escaped one night when he was on nights. He come back in 6 a.m. and I packed Andrew's. He gave me a good hiding. And I couldn't could you use one arm? So I thought, I'm going home. I can't cope this anymore. So I sneaked out of bed, got Andrew out of his cot, put him in his carry car, put him in the car, and shot down to Liverpool. I was like that, with one arm. Got to Liverpool. By the time I got to Liverpool, he'd rang me best mate, to go with him to get me back, to convince me to come back. But I told my dad on the way, my mum, I'm on my way home because he'd hit me. It's the first time I'd ever opened up.
Right.
So my dad was in Manchester then on meetings, and he couldn't. By the time Dad got back from Manchester to Liverpool after his meetings, I'd already been taken back to Scotland. Because he'd come to my mum's and he'd come up to the bedroom and he went, I'm going to kill myself if you don't come back with me. That threat. If they say that, they're not going to do it. Yes, it's just to scare you. It's just to put the guilt trip on you.
Narcissistic, like manipulation. Total
manipulation to get you fear of them. Imagine, oh yeah, I killed your dad. He committed suicide because of me. You could have that guilt trip on you and especially when a baby is young. So the only way I could do was go back. But I went back with my friend in her car, dreading the whole journey. I got hiding when I got back.
So how was your friend then? Did she know what was going on? Had you kept all this from her? And did people think you then were struggling with that?
She didn't know the full extent.
No. And were people a little bit concerned?
She feels guilty to this day. We're still in contact all over these years.
Yeah.
Because her son was born in the same day, a day in between, I think it was, of my son. That's how we met.
Yeah.
But her husband was a policeman. So I could only tell so much.
Yeah.
This is like, I'm going to speak honestly, this is a really difficult conversation for me. Just the more I'm listening to, I'm feeling a lot inside me is coming up. A lot of emotions coming up inside of me when you're talking about what's gone on. I'm feeling a little bit numb.
Why?
But no, there's just a lot coming up for me. Just in terms of the way you're talking about men, and it's probably quite hurtful for how men can show up. Although, to me, there is a bigger picture to the whole, to what happens in domestic violence. There's not just obviously the perpetrators doing it, there's the victim, and then there's the big story behind why are they that way, and then what was their upbringing, and then why was they that way, and in no way condoning it. But it's just really hurtful that the whole scenario of what happens and the story to what leads to domestic violence is really bringing something up in me right now when we're talking about it, which is good, but it's bringing a lot of emotion up for me.
Yeah.
So,
well, I hope when this goes out, I mean, it's not just for women, as men suffers exactly the same as women, right? So exactly we've got the same feelings, got the same hearts that beat. You know, there's help out there, get it. Don't suffer in silence. No, anyone suffer in silence. Because I did, and this is why I do what I do today, because I don't want anyone going through what I went through. I was so isolated. And it was torture, 7 years of pure hell, but I had 2 amazing boys out of it. I've got 2 amazing, incredible children. Well, children and adults now. Gentlemen who respect women, who I've given them, I put my life on hold for them. I've given them everything I could. Andrew suffered a lot because he had 5 years of his life with his dad. So he was very close to him. Joe was only 18 months and his dad didn't want anything to do with him. He said he was to someone else. Well, I'd get a DNA test done because he's yours and I know exactly when and where.
Yeah.
But he's always said that he's not his. But to look at Andrew and Joe together, Andrew looks the image of his dad, Joe's the image of me, but Andrew's nothing like his dad. Nothing. He's got the height and the size, but he's a gentle giant.
Yeah.
I'm in awe of my boys and my daughter, but this is a separate conversation.
Yeah.
I'm in awe of them, the men they are today and the respect they have. And for me, to bring them up. But my dad had an important part, and my mum had an important part of their bringing up. Because their dad was their role model. They looked at them as their dad, especially when I come back to Liverpool and set to start all over again.
Yeah.
So after the time you've just spoke of that, you went back up to Scotland, and obviously your friend and I spoke to your ex-partner and you've sort of got you to go back up. What's happened after that? Like you're saying that you went back up and you got a hell of a beating when you've gone back up for what he had said you did. So what's gone on from then to like sort of what brought you to
the violence got worse.
Leaving?
The violence got worse.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought I'm going to die or he's going to die.
How bad did it ever get, Can? Like, was it to the point where there was outside help involved? Like, was there ever police needed? Was there ever, like, hospital visits? Did it get to that point for you? Or did you manage to really just keep it all to yourself and really suffer in silence?
It only happened when I came back from Liverpool. When he come with me, that's when it got worse. But that's when I could break and get the help I needed. Because, so I literally came back from Scotland. I said, I want to go home. I need to go home. Because Andrew my mum and dad wanted to be by the baby. He was dreading coming back, obviously. You know, he didn't want to see the animal he was, the monster he was. But it gave him an ultimatum, I'm going back home.
Yeah.
So we did.
And how old was Andrew at this time?
God. How old was he? About 2, 3? Yeah, it was about 2 or 3. And he was only little. Anyway. We had a nice house when he came back from Scotland. We rented a nice house. He lost his job, but he hated work anyway. He hated to work. I was doing 2 jobs. He was looking after Andrew. Then he said to me, right, we need to go into council accommodation, which is, you know, I've got no harm in that. But where he put me, I'll never forget it. I wouldn't put a dog in that house. Oh. It was not a screen, but all the houses were all deserted. And there was this one house with 3. And he said, that's our house. So where's the rest of the houses? Where's all the people living? No one lived in them because they're all condemned. So you're staying there or you're homeless. So my poor dad, then he went on night shift and left me there with a wide open space of rats, needles in the garden. I've never seen anything like that in my life before. Never had to experience anything like that before. So my dad said, right, okay, I'll make it as safe and secure as possible. So he'd done it all out, wooden floors. My dad had a really bad back and the agony in his face trying to do it. And he went on night shift and got off somewhere delivering. So he didn't have to do it. Now, leaving me, I had Joe then as well. He was a baby. Leaving me there with this big open space of rats, and I used to sleep with a knife under my bed. In fact, I never slept, but damp and everything. Horrendous. But he wanted to humiliate me more, bring me down more by putting me in there. And he did.
And was he still at this point, like mentally and physically, the abuse really going rife at that point? And now you're back at Liverpool. How did you hide that then from your mum and dad? Or did they start to like understand what was going on at this point?
Oh yeah, they started to see. They started to see the deterioration in me. But still 40. Until this one day, this is when it broke. One day we hardly had any money. And can you imagine we were just arguing over a portion of chips or something? We'd been out somewhere, the park or something. And we were arguing. And he'd been to TA. I can't remember. He'd been to TA, so we had his TA gear on. Because he used to always escape and leave me to it. This argument escalated. He always threatened to break me back. He said, I'm going to break your back. I'm going to break your back. One day I'm going to break your back. Anyway, he wellied me in the spine with the army boots on. In the bottom of my spine. And the kids were playing in the living room. And my screams, you could hear. Well, to me, I thought you couldn't hear them, but they were... One of the neighbours called the police anyway. In fact, I called the police myself when I got up. I actually thought he broke me back because the crack in my head was too loud. But I got up off that floor. I wiped away my tears. And I rang the police for the first time. But I rang my mum to get round here. As my mum got there, the police got there. And my mum was going, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? The kids were upstairs screaming. He got carted off. And I got an injunction for 12 months to keep away from me. I've never experienced pain like that. Joe was still in a bottle. I've never experienced pain like that, pain in my life, in my spine. I went to hospital. So I'd done fractures and that. Fractures are worse than breaks. But it was like muscle bruising and internal bruising as well. And it took me about 3 months to get over that bruising more. Because he'd left, Andrew was pining for him because he loved him. And because I was so worn down with the pain, with looking after the two in that home on my own fear, I took him back.
Yeah.
And I know why people go back. Time and time again.
What is it that makes you take them back, and what is it that maybe makes you defend them? Because I know a lot of people who are in that situation will defend now. Quite often maybe blame themselves as well, and it was my fault and I provoked and stuff.
Maybe I deserved it. Did I say something? Did I say I deserved that?
Yeah.
This is where you start to believe what they tell you. If you didn't do that, you wouldn't get what you got.
And did you believe that at one point, like,
maybe I'm the perpetrator?
Something wrong
maybe
with
it's me. Because I didn't stand, I wasn't these ones that just had me mouth shut. I'd get back good. You know, I was a mouthy person. But no one deserves a kick, and no one deserves a slap, and no one deserves to be punched or mentally abused. Nobody deserves that. No violence. There's no excuses for it.
So why did you take him back at this point?
Because of Andrew, loved him so much. You feel like a family unit again. I didn't want to, you know, maybe, because he always said, I'm going to make Andrew hate you for the rest of your life. So, cut along, he was back a month. And I couldn't do it. I thought I'd plan my escape in bed, because he used to leave me and I was petrified, and Joe was getting, you know, grown up, and well, that's what it started. Yeah. He started the punishment. Like, I'm going to put Andrew in the cupboard because he's done something naughty, and punish him. I went, you're not putting any of son of mine in that cupboard. You can take everything out on me, because I'll go in there first. And then when I go to work, because he stayed at home, Joe had bruises. He said he fell out of his high chair. And one day, a neighbour knocked, and our Joe was crawling up the road in his nappy.
And was that like a point for you then, when it was, you know, the kids?
Do to me, but don't do it to my kids. That's when I come on, Karen, get a grip of yourself. Get out and do this for your children and for yourself. So I did.
So that was one of the questions.
And I packed when he was away.
Yeah.
Oh, my nerves. I got the van organised. I left him half of everything. Half, so he could start up. He could live in the house with everything. And I just took the kids' stuff and my stuff. And the van come. The thought of the panic, getting everything in case he come back. I was like, just go in. And I shut that front door and I went to my safe space round the corner from my mum in this gorgeous little 2-bedroomed house. That was my freedom. I've never looked back since, and I've never seen him since. Sorry, once when he came to the school, Andrew went to the school kicking off drunk. That's when the headmaster or the headmistress said, we'll have to call the police because he's been disruptive in the school. And after that, I went, no more. He seen Andrew once, he didn't want to see Joe, you know, with the contact. And he gave Andrew a bottle of his aftershave. He said, smell me every day because that's all you've got of me. And I had a wedding picture with my head cut off. That you do not mentally abuse my kids.
That mental abuse then starting with the boys.
Cut.
Yeah.
And what, you know, when like people are perpetrators in like domestic violence, like what do you actually think? Obviously, he's a lot of it was happening when he was having alcohol. Yeah, like the violence was happening when he was having alcohol. Like, what do you think from doing a lot of work in domestic violence? What is driving domestic violence? Like, what is driving men and women who are committing and being the perpetrator? What's driving that, do you think? Like that type of behaviour?
What's driving it?
Yeah, like where does it come from? Like, why are they acting in that way?
Any excuse to be a bully, because they already are bullies. There's no excuses. There's no child excuses. There's no, because my dad was like that, my mum was like that, my mate was like that, my sister was like that. There's no excuses. They know what they're doing. It's not a disease.
Yeah.
They know exactly what they choose to do it. They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
There's no excuses for violence.
No. I don't think there is any excuse ever for violence, to be honest. I think we all get to a certain point, and when we know we've done something wrong, when we become aware of it, then we then have an accountability to take. If we know we've got certain problems or issues in our life, we've then got to take self-accountability to empower ourselves, which is what we talk about a lot. We've got to empower ourselves to make the change, and we've got to be the change that we wish to see. You like saying that saying, don't you?
Yeah.
You've got to be the change in the world that you actually want to see. If you're actually doing something wrong, it's us, you know, in terms of even with addiction and stuff like that, I look a lot into addiction because my father suffered with addiction and mental health problems and stuff like that. But it starts, like we said earlier, with the self. You've got to take accountability for how you're showing up in your life.
Like we're saying, addictions as well, of course. Once you have an addiction, it's so hard, isn't it, to break away from. But do you think it's just like perpetrators, right? They blame their addiction. I'm addicted to drink, I'm addicted to drugs, I'm addicted to this, on being that way. But it's not the case. Because they want to bully, they want to abuse. They say they've got addiction because they haven't. But it's just an excuse.
Do you believe that people who inflict pain on others have been in pain themselves? Do you think that happens? Because certainly with trauma from my findings, not that it's right, but passes down through generations. So whatever has happened in our life or whatever has happened with our parents, it seems to pass down in how we show up. I think
addictions,
yes.
Or
it can break.
But in domestic abuse now.
Okay.
Because in addictions, yes, with drugs and alcohol and stuff like that, and trauma, not with domestic abuse. You can walk out that door. If your mum was like that or your dad was like that, it just means to say you're going to be like that, does it?
Yeah.
You break away from that circle. You don't be the same as them.
Yeah.
That's a choice.
Yeah.
It can be really sensitive. It's a sensitive subject, especially when you've been a victim of something. So, like, a question that I want to ask you, and I don't know where you'll be with this because it's something I've found quite hard, is forgiveness. So have you been at a place where you've been able to forgive? Because it's an intense one. I think sometimes on my own healing journey, I've forgiven and then I capture myself and I think I've maybe not forgiven because of the way I'm behaving and the way I'm feeling. But I've finally got to a point where I've been able to forgive perpetrators that have done harm to me, not condemning behaviours, but for my own healing, so that I can be free with my own life.
I totally agree with you.
That's where my forgiveness has come from. And to an extent, things maybe that have happened have not been acceptable, but I think I don't know lives that maybe people have lived. So, and I don't need to know. I just need to know that I've forgiven so that I can be free and move on with my own life. So how is that for you? I don't know. You know, everybody's at different stages, and everybody's,
Carly, please. How can you forgive someone who's given you a disability and you're in bed 4 times a week?
And I completely understand what you're saying. It's
when they're living their life, not giving a damn about you or your kids. How can you forgive someone who's tortured you? So I understand where you're coming from. I forgive myself for being there.
Yeah.
I forgive me. That. In other words, I don't have no guilt no more.
Yeah.
It's allowing yourself to not forgive though as well. I feel like that's got a whole space for that within ourselves.
I don't forgive him. I don't, I can't forgive him. But I forgive me.
Yeah.
Because it's not my fault.
Yeah.
So that's why I help other people. It's not your fault, it's their fault. So I forgive me for thinking that way.
Yeah.
That's where I forgive me for.
Yeah. Well,
does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And that's a good answer still, because there's some sort of forgiveness there, isn't there? Because,
of course, it's me that's forgiven.
Yeah.
Because I won't let it get to me anymore. Yes, it's very emotional doing this because it's bringing everything back.
Yeah.
But I always leave the past in the past, because with having this disability, like I said, there's no way he's going to ruin my future and put me in this wheelchair. Because I won't let it. And them heels remain on good days. He's not taking them away from me.
Thank you. So how are the boys then? Like, obviously we've just said, like, you finally walked away and you've cut contact. And not only the boys, but how are you now mentally and the boys, how are they mentally, and how are you there to hold the boys when they're asking for the dad? When, you know, you're feeling like, don't mention dad. Dad's such a, you know, to you that's a really sore subject, but your boys are asking for daddy. Like, how did you
I
cope?
never, ever badmouthed them.
Yeah.
Why would I?
Yeah.
They've heard, they've seen, even though it was so little, they felt, they heard.
Yeah.
Why would I badmouth him? There's no point. Why would they want to hear from me? Oh, your dad's this, your dad's that, your dad's this, your dad's that. No, I will answer questions and did answer questions. Have they grown up wanting to ask me questions? And that's what I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they started to ask questions and I told them the truth.
And I like that. And if anybody would be listening to this now, something that just literally popped into my head then, if people are going through the same as what you've been through, and you know, what would your advice be to them when the kids ask the questions? Because quite often we'll hide things from kids. I know I've definitely done it in the past. It's like, oh, they don't need to hear that, or they don't need to see that, from a protection point.
Stop protecting them.
Yeah.
Be honest and open. If they're old enough.
Yeah.
You've got to be old enough. You know, if they're only little, they don't need to know nothing.
Yeah.
They're already traumatised. When they're old enough to understand, tell them the truth. Tell them.
Yeah.
You don't have to go into gory details if you don't want to, but just tell them. They respect you more by telling the truth than hiding it. There's no point in hiding.
Because I suppose it's really important that they've lost trust maybe with them, a man in their life. They've lost that trust. So then I suppose if people are hiding information...
Well, Andrew hated me
yeah.
for years. Well, not years, but he'd always heard his dad's side of the story, never mine. So he really rebelled, and his dad took him to like a hostel and showed him a bed with... He said, that's where your mum's put me. He was only 5. That's where you know, look at all these needles and drugs what I've got and I don't eat. I mean, why put your child through that?
Yeah.
So he had that picture in his head.
Yeah.
Not my side. He didn't need to hear my side because he was already traumatised. So I waited and waited until I could tell him the truth. And when he did see his dad eventually once, after 10 years, his dad still badmouthed me and still blamed me for the whole of the abuse. That was all a lie. And I made it all up.
So there was still like a massive amount of lack of accountability in the whole process there.
Yeah.
So tell us about the work that you're actually doing now. Because I know you're doing lots of work. You're involved with lots of organisations. You've got lots of accolades and lots of awards for doing what you're doing. So tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, I lived in Spain for 9 years.
Yeah.
So I give my boys a second language. That was my way of escaping too, to not look over my shoulder. Couldn't find him, he'd gone. Didn't need to. And I went. And anyway, I had a fabulous, you know, ups and downs, by the way. My mum and dad were out there, you know, not forever, but coming backwards and forwards. And I gave my kids a free life. And then when I come back, I decided that I wanted to do something for me to help others, to give back. And that's when I decided to write my book. And I thought, you know, I'm going to write a book. I didn't have a clue how to start. Anyway, I got a publisher. I told her my story. I wrote, by the way, in exercise books every single day for 7 hours, just writing and writing and writing from 13 upwards, everything. And these books are going bigger and bigger and bigger. You know, these exercise books, and I'm looking at them going, am I going to transfer them into the computer? Because I haven't got a clue. But I wanted to write this book, and I did. And I thought, it's not going anywhere. I just want to help one person. If they can get my strength, one person, it's done its job.
Yeah.
And I did, and I launched it in 2014. And The publisher wasn't very good. That's another story. Better not say too much on here. But anyway, it went global. I didn't make any money on that book. It wasn't to make money. It was to raise awareness.
Yeah.
I had to relaunch it with a different publisher a couple of years later. Same, a fabulous publisher. Paid all over again to get a better cover stuff, because it was a dark time when I brought that out. My dad had died in the middle of writing it. And I promised him I'd publish it for their 50th wedding anniversary in December, and he died in July. So my heart was literally broken, because he was my idol. And I carried on writing. See, when you read my book, it all dips and, but it seems to trail off. If you know me as a person, you'll know me, it goes off, because it was the death of my dad. And, well, it helped so many people. I've wrote it as though I'm speaking here, talking to you.
Yeah.
That's how I wrote it.
Yeah.
And then now my work, I started an organisation out of the corner, a CIC.
Yeah.
And then I wrote my own course. Exactly what I went through to help others. What do I need? What did I need to rebuild my life? So I wrote the course.
Amazing.
And it's still my Bible today. I still work from that same piece of paper.
Yeah, brilliant.
Not duplicated, nothing. Still from that piece of, I don't know, off by heart. But 9 years on, it's helped hundreds and hundreds of women and men.
Yeah.
And one-to-ones and radio and TV and public speaking in London. Angola. I went to Angola. I got invited out there to do a speech to help the African community. Oh, it's just been incredible. The support and the backup that I get, it amazes me every day. I've got two groups on Facebook, a private one and a public one. And I put quotes up on each one every single day, 2 each day, to help someone out there going through something.
Yeah.
My inbox is always open. And I take phone calls, especially through COVID. That was horrendous, because the domestic violence rates went right up. Because can you imagine being with that perpetrator 24 hours? It even takes my breath away thinking about it. So the suicide calls I got was a lot. And I work with people like yourself.
Yeah.
We all collaborate together. So you give referrals, I give referrals to you, Alan, John Finnegan.
John Finnegan, yeah.
Who introduced us.
Yeah.
We're a great man for the homeless, Liverpool football team, who I'm ambassador for.
Yeah.
I've been ambassador from day one. I go to public speaking there and talk about domestic abuse. Us all together makes this city a better place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's working together and helping each other, so that if somebody comes to you who needs something in particular and you know someone in that area, then you say, look, there's a person that can help you with that particular need.
So,
exactly.
I'm just wary of time. But we could have carried on for hours, honestly. I feel like we've skipped a generation of your life to get to the end here. But I want to ask some quick questions.
That's why I wrote a book.
I got the book.
Book 2 coming soon. But I can write it. Vocal 1.
So we'll ask some quick fire questions, okay? Do you want to ask the first one?
Yeah, so if someone called you now and they're going through what you've been through, domestic violence, what would be the first bit of advice you'd tell them?
Basically, I'd ask them if they're in a safe space. Are they safe now? Are they still in an abusive relationship? Have they left that abusive relationship? And how they're feeling and what their support they need, where they're at.
Yeah.
And that's where I go from there.
Yeah.
And then I support them every step of the way.
Yeah.
And rebuild their lives.
Amazing.
Next one.
Okay. So what does it mean to you to be a woman?
Empowerment.
Empowerment.
Being a woman. I love being a woman. I don't think I've ever experienced not being a woman. What's it like for me to be a woman
What
today?
does it mean to be a woman, yeah? Like,
What does it mean to you to be a woman?
I ask every person who comes on that question, you see. So
Do
if
you
it's
know
a
what?
man...
I've never even thought of that question,
No,
do you?
it's a quite
Why
a
did
tough
you
one.
pick that question?
But if it's a man, I want to know what it means to them to be a man. So does it mean that they show up? Do they be accountable? Like, are they a protector? What does it mean to you from a woman's perspective?
I want to be a woman who people remember.
Nice.
Where people know my name and say, I like that lady. She's done everything she can to help others. I have respect for her. And I want to give my respect to other girls and women. And I want to be like their role model. But I am always approachable. Yeah?
Yeah.
A woman who's approachable, never jealous, genuine, honest, caring, loving, kind, and grounded. That's what a woman's all about.
Lovely, that.
And a good mum.
And a good mum.
Great answer.
Good answer.
Smashed it in the end.
Right, okay. So we'll have some final words just on, is there anything coming up for you, or is there anything we should be expecting from you, or do you want to just finish with saying anything at all?
What's expected from me now?
Yeah, what are you going to be doing in the future, if you like?
Carrying on.
What's happening?
Regardless. With this disability. Because obviously it never gets better. It's going to deteriorate. So I will carry on as long as I carry on. Yeah? My body might be disintegrating with pain and all of that, but my brain is alert. And I've got my mouth and I can talk for anyone. Yeah. But while I am able to do everything I want, which I fight every day, I will carry on doing what I'm doing. And I most probably carry on doing what I'm doing till the day I die. Helping other people, helping the community, helping the world, helping each country, every city. Involve myself more in organisations. If you want me, get in touch with me. If you need me, get in touch with me. I'm always there to help.
Brilliant.
And to support. And all the young generation out there, please, I'm saying this from me, never, ever, ever take any form of violence. It's not acceptable. Verbal, mental, physical, emotional, sexual, power and control. No is no. Do not accept anything like that.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
For coming on, and thank you
having
so
me.
much for your time. Honestly, it's been a
Really powerful.
deep,
Yeah.
powerful, emotional podcast. So thank
Lord
you so
Jim,
much.
please.
It's definitely brought something up for me and brought tears to my eyes a couple of times throughout there. So I'm really, really grateful for you
Thank
coming
you
on,
very much.
sharing your story.
It's been a pleasure meeting you both.
Empowering so many women and doing the work you're doing. So like a
And
lot
men.
of gratitude.
And
And men,
men,
of
yeah.
course, yeah. I apologise for that. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Any final words, Carly?
Just really grateful. Really grateful.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, just want to say a big thank you from us, and looking forward to getting to know you more and to working with you in the future.
Great.
Okay, thank you so much for coming on.
Let's start today.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Jacob.
Thank you, Jacob.
Thank you.
Do you like that?